Are you struggling to understand your business numbers? Are you wanting to take your business to the next level? Well, each week here on the Local Small Business Coach podcast, we dive into your business to help you not only understand the business numbers that matter, but we will discuss how to use them to increase your profits. Hi, I'm Tammy, and I'm on a mission to help our badass local business owners take their business to the next level. So if you're a badass or a badass in the making, let's get this party started. Hey, badass business owners, welcome back to the show. Have you ever had a challenge with communication? Well, of course you have. Have you ever had a situation where you said something and somebody didn't quite take what you meant the right way? Of course you have. Now, here's one of the challenges we have as business owners. As we take on employees, we do this all of the time. All right. And it's something that, especially if you've never had employees before, it is a learning lesson every single person has to learn. And it's also one that I find a lot of people who have had employees for a really long time have never really learned the lesson. Everybody looks at their employees in a different way. Some people look at them as just employees. All right. Some people look at them as team members. Ideally, that is the better way to look at it. It's not so much, yes, they are technically employees, but I'm really big as they are your team. You are only as successful as your team. You're in this together. It is all about we and us and what we're going to accomplish and not what you are going to do or what I am going to do. That is one of the worst things you could ever do because you're never going to get everybody behind you as long as it's I and you. You really have to do this. We are in this together kind of a thing. And one of the challenges when you do that has to do with your words, because we forget sometimes because we're so in the depths of team and that it's us and that we're in this together. We're family. We're going to make this happen. We forget that our words carry weight and that the things we say still have an impact because of who we are. So while we're building this family and this team and everything else, there still is this line that is drawn is that you are the boss and they are the employees. And whether it's spoken or it's not spoken, that's how people view you. I remember as I was coming up the ranks with Home Depot, one of the challenges that I had is I really had to separate out my friends from myself as I started to do that because my words didn't carry the same weight with friends when I was asking them to get something done. You know what? So that's one of the challenges. I was a young leader, so obviously I had an issue with some people because of the whole age thing. Once again, every word I chose. If I acted like a kid, if I said stupid things that a kid would say, guess what? My 50, 60-year-old employees weren't going to take me seriously because I was, in their mind, I wasn't conducting myself as a leader. We see this all the time within our own businesses. You've probably worked for somebody that was like that, and we see it in the real world examples all of the time. And sometimes we forget that the higher we move up in rank, or for example, when we are the owner of the business, one of the challenges we have is everything we say, people hold on to. And I remember there's one example I used when I became a district manager and I went out I was in Utah at the time. And I remember I was, when you're helping the customers and you're helping the public, you have this love-hate relationship with people, right? You have this love-hate relationship with customers. And we always say retail, or the service-based businesses, same thing, that it would be fantastic if we didn't have to deal with the public. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, I remember one time I was in one of our stores and so I was just having one of those days where just everybody was getting on my nerves from a customer standpoint, and there were some problems and everything else. And I was newer at being a district manager at the time. And I had I was on the phone and I was hearing something else that was just another issue that had just popped up. And I remember I was walking through the light cloud where the ceiling fans and the lights are. And I remember I was on the phone and I made a comment about how oh God, I just hate people. And it was in response to the other side of the phone that had to do with a upset customer who was just unrealistic, asking for the moon. It was something so minor that was an easy fix, but they were making a mountain out of the molehill. It was something huge, and I was just frustrated. So I just made that comment about how I hate people. Now, there was no one else around. I was just walking through. I was reacting to the moment into the phone. But here's what happened. There's other employees. There were employees that could hear me. And all they heard was my side of the conversation. All they heard was their district manager saying they hate people. So what kind of rumors do you think started going around by, oh my God, did you hear? Tammy doesn't like people. She doesn't like us. And then the telephone game starts, right? Next thing you know, people in that store are thinking, I don't like the people that work there. I don't like individuals. Oh my gosh, it became something that was totally crazy from a misunderstanding of something that I had said because somebody only heard one piece of it and then they kind of ran with it. And it was in that moment because I had to go back and do some town halls and go back and fix everything. I ended up with a fantastic relationship with this particular store, but I had to do a lot of unnecessary work because of a comment that I made where I forgot my environment and who was around. And one of the things that you do all the time that you don't realize is you say things to your employees or in front of your customers or something like I did innocently. Someone might have overheard. You may be somewhere at a food place taking a phone call on your business and say something, but meanwhile you forgot that you're in your truck or you're wearing your business shirt on. And people are hearing you with your attitude and what you're saying. So sometimes we forget that our words carry weight. And our words really carry weight when it comes to our employees and the people that we're trying to help. I remember another time I was, and sometimes because we get really friendly with our employees and the people we work with, and we forget because here's part of the problem. We are who we are. We forget that we are people. And so when we say things, oftentimes we say things and from a standpoint of just being human. And I remember one time I was, doing a walk with a department supervisor. And once again, I was district manager doing this walk with this department supervisor. And this department supervisor was always trying to joke, crack jokes, and do everything else. Well, I am a first-class sarcastic individual, and I can play with the best of them or whatever the case may be. And I remember he said something. I don't even remember what it was. He said something, and I kind of made a joke back. And he kind of looked at me for a minute. I think he was thrown off I don't think he expected me to say it. Well, anyways, flash forward a few months and the store manager comes up to me and he says, hey, I feel like I really need to tell you something and he starts bringing up the situation and I'm vaguely remembering it. And he's telling me that department supervisor thinks I don't like him and he's never going to get promoted because of something I said, blah, 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 blah. And it all comes down to that conversation that I had with that department supervisor where he started being a smart ass and I just happened to be a smart ass back. And I really liked this kid, and he was definitely going to get promoted, and he was doing a good job. He had some fine-tuning to do because he didn't quite think through some of the things that he said, ironically. But anyways, long story short, once again, by not paying attention to what I said, I forgot that the weight of my words meant a lot more because of who I was. Had I just been a fellow department supervisor that had said that, he would have just blown it off. He wouldn't have thought twice about it. Had I been his particular assistant manager, more than likely he would have blown part of it away and moved on. Had it been the store manager, it would have carried more weight. Because I was the district manager, it carried even more weight. The reason that I tell you this is this happens all the time. Right now, as I'm recording this, there's still this whole brouhaha about something that, for example, the president said in regards to disinfectants and taking them, not taking them, whatever the case may be. My goal here is not to debate that whole thing. Did he, didn't he? But here's the thing. The whole thing blew up because of who he is. Whether he was, he wasn't, or anything else, there are people that hang on every single word that he says. Same thing with us. They hang on to every single word that we say. I have been in businesses a bunch of different businesses. I've worked with different people, and I'm telling you, whatever your title is, it means more. When your parent says something, it hurts more. You know what I mean? Sometimes, it's whatever at the end of the day, all the words can be the same, but whose mouth they come out of is a big deal. So my challenge to you is I want you to make sure that you are always watching the words that you say and who you say them to and who you say them in front of, because you never know when you might be insulting a customer accidentally. They happen to be in the aisle. They happen to overhear the conversation. They don't have any clue what's on the other side of that conversation, but they just hear you bitching and moaning about one of your customers. And that customer could be the worst customer in the world. But if I'm a new customer and I'm in the grocery store and I overhear you talking about your customer that way, what does that set up? Okay, that doesn't necessarily set up that you have a bad customer on the other side. It just tells me that this is how you're going to handle it if we have a problem in our transaction together. Okay, if you are a smartass to one of your employees, like I was to this kid, you know what? Even though there was no meanness whatsoever meant in my comment to him, it was more of to put him in check because of the way he was talking. Without context to that kid, he didn't understand. Now, I learned in the future that if I was going to make a comment, that I go, wait a minute, now do you understand why I just did that? Because now I use it as a learning moment, as a teaching moment, because I can say, you know how that just made you feel? That's how you're making your employees feel when you do that to them. This is why we don't want to do that. I don't mean anything by what I just said to you. And I want you to know that I really don't, but I want you to know how you felt in that moment. That's how you're leaving your employees. So you see how it's a completely different experience of how I can use it to leverage it for people. You know, it's difficult because, like I said, inside we are still the same person we were yesterday, before you had the business, before you had employees. You're the same person. Yes, you've grown. Yes, you've matured. Yes, you've been around the block. Yes, you've learned different things. But we forget that's not where those people are. That's not where your customers are at. That's not where your employees are at. That's not even, and it's actually a really good, especially if you're a smartass like myself, you really do have to understand your audience and where they are at the time. Your words carry weight. And the higher you get in any kind of seniority, the more weight that your words carry. And when you are the owner of the business, your words carry tons of weight. And while you may not mean anything by them because you're just joking with your employees or you're just saying something to them, you're their boss. So even though you guys are in it together, you're in it to win it, if their boss says something to them in any way, shape, or form that could be taken a different way, the odds are they're going to do that. So do me a favor. I want you to start really paying attention to how you communicate and where you communicate. Because like I said, part of it is when you do it one-on-one, and sometimes it has to do with more of when people overhear what it is that you say. You know what? If you find yourself getting into a conversation over the phone that other people can hear you, or you think they can hear you, like I learned, because I didn't think anybody heard me that day when I was walking through that light cloud. If you think someone can hear you, ask yourself, if they only heard that one side of the conversation, how are they going to leave it? Are they going to think that you don't care about people? Are they going to think that you don't care about your customers? Are they going to hear something that you're going to wish they never heard? And that's really important because, once again, the weight of our words carry a lot, especially as we move up the ladder and as we take on more responsibility, and especially as the owner of our business. It's a silly way to shoot yourself in the foot, and especially for those of you guys that are in a smaller town, because guess what? That's going to be picked up and spread. It's not just about that customer hearing what it is that you said. It's not about that customer hearing how you spoke to your employee. It's not about that customer, because I'm telling you, it's how many people that customer is going to tell. It's about it spreading through your community and who's going to find out. So I want you to make sure that you're always paying attention, that your words have some weight to them, and you want to be careful. All right, I'm off my soapbox, but I just wanted to make sure that we talked about this, and get out there, bust some ass, and go make some money. All right, I'll talk to you on the next episode. Bye for now. Okay, badass business owner, don't you think it is time that you learn how to read your profit and loss income statement? Now, I know you don't have time. I know you hate numbers. I know you're afraid of what you're going to find. But it is time to suck it up, buttercup, and learn to read and understand the most important report in your business. Your profit and loss income statement shows you the flow of money in and out of your business. Don't you think it's time that you started to pay attention?
Now get your free quick guide on how to read your profit and loss income statement at profitandlossguide.com, or just click the show notes. There's a link in there for you. What are you waiting for? You're a badass business owner, aren't you?